Happy New Year and welcome back to the JONATHAN BENAIAH Podcast. Now, for context, if you've not listened to the previous sections of this exciting episode, be sure to pause this particular one and go back and listen to those 3 other earlier sections. In this 4th segment of the episode on 2022, a year in review, my guests and I will discuss 2 big stories, including the uncensored and controversial debate on whether we should change our destination titles back to African names. Okay, let's just move on. I'd like to bring Letile back and Kojo, and then maybe also hear from Brian as well. The beginning of the year is usually a good time to look at what new things have come out, especially now as guys who work in this business of selling safaris. I'd like to know what new things can people look out for. I'm pretty much rolling out a blank, call it, artists paint on a canvas, pretty much laying out a blank canvas for you to paint out maybe some new safari lodges, what new tourist experiences, what new destinations, what new activities have you seen in 2022, but also can you tell us that pretty much going to open up in the new year? I don't know if we should start with Letile and then bring in Brian, or whoever is
ready. Letile, please come in.
Letile, you can start.
I would say for people should do more on cultural tourism, if I put it, or more they interact with more local people.
Yeah.
To do like packages where you take your clients from Rwanda, they come to Botswana, they just come to a certain village in Botswana, do activities with them, but not interfering with the way of life or how they do things. Just like a normal thing, like you are just like a visitor, come to do your things, visiting people. Not like as a tourist, but being like a visitor, just do what they are doing, or you can join them doing their lunch, but not like in a class being taught how to make our traditional food or how we do things. If I hope you try to understand what I'm trying to say. Yeah, because mostly people, they believe tourism is only about wildlife, especially this side in Botswana, because mostly they just come, they go to the Delta, or they come go to Chobe. You see?
I think that's everywhere in Africa.
Yeah, because I would say like in September, I hosted 2 Belgians, one guy from the US, 2 from Germany, 2 from Taiwan. So they said, let's go to a restaurant, we can have a lunch. I took them to a restaurant where mostly white people, they like to go. They told me, no, this place is too white for us. We need something where we can be more local, where we can interact, where we can feel more welcomed.
Yeah.
You see, I took them to a nearby bar with they're doing braai and papa. So they feel
what's that?
More like to a bar. They're doing a braai and papa. Papa is like a polenta.
Okay.
Yeah, but ours is white compared to others that they get this yellow. Okay. So it's like a local restaurant. So they enjoyed the company of people, just relax, seeing people doing different things. We took a walk around Maung. They can see how we build our houses, how we live, how we do our daily duties. Like when they fly into the Delta, they fly into Maung to the Delta, come back, same routine. They can't say anything about Maung. They're only going to say only Okavango Delta.
Yeah.
But Okavango Delta can tell the whole story about Botswana itself. It's only going to tell the story about the Delta only and the wildlife in the Delta only. You see?
That's a strong point.
So, so as travel agents, we should make more packages like that. And also, it has more money goes back into the community than into safari operators companies, because mostly these companies are from international people.
Yeah.
Less are owned by locals, and the ones that are making more money are from outside. So which means the money goes back outside the country than going inside the country. So the more you interact with the locals, the more locals stand a chance to benefit from tourism itself.
Yeah. Have you had any new, maybe safari lodges open up throughout 2022? Or do you have some projects that you can share with us that are coming up?
Some companies, they open a few safari lodges in the Delta because they were just increasing the number of lodges they are having.
Yeah.
Because, quite few number of them, they open very beautiful camps this year.
Okay. Let me just bring in Brian. Just share some as well.
As the year, of course, is ending, there's quite that has happened in the East African region. As much as we've been talking about, electronic vehicles in safari parks, I think right now we need to customize our travel plans for our guests based on conservation, sustainability, and also responsible tourism. So, of course, Letilia has mentioned, community involvement, involving these things. And if I take back this to Aisha, what Aisha is actually doing, the Ewafe Culture Village, this is something very nice. Someone can really do, and have an interaction. Have an interaction with the community is actually very key on every traveler's experiences. So, in Uganda, something that is actually developing, I think, Jonathan, you know it as well, the Space for Giants, I think, they are really working hard to see the eastern region go back on the map, the Pian Upe Game Reserve. So it's something also, I have been selling, me and my team have been selling the eastern region quite often. I think in a year we sell that destination more often. Believe me, anyone traveling to Uganda and listening to this, the eastern region of Uganda is among the beautiful. The landscape Stunning, is amazing. Yeah. It's just an amazing destination. So Pian Upe Game Reserve is under development, and it's going to be.
It's a good prospect.
It's going to be a good prospect in the coming years. So definitely, Mountain Renzori, like Bentik was saying, it's also on top of the experiences to look out for, and of course a few other in the spaces for Kenya and Tanzania. These are destinations that can always surprise people. Yeah, there are quite a number of lodges and camps that are being renovated. Quite many things are actually happening, and I believe 2023 might be even bigger.
Fantastic.
Actually, if I could add something, Brian, this one at least you were among the championing ones, Karatunga.
Oh yeah,
that thing is massive. That is a massive project, and I feel like
you should thank us for having seen it.
You guys, the good thing is,
we are very good in spotting nice things.
We've been in this thing together. Don't leave me out. But it is a very nice thing, and then I'm also happy about, we've been crying about domestic tourism.
Yes.
And if you try to dig in deep, you can see how things have been changing over time. The Busika, adventure parks. Yeah. People are now creating things. They have understood the market of Ugandans, and they are trying to give them what actually suits them. The guys want to go shooting, so go to Kapeka, go for zip linings. You can see all these things are developing up, and like Letile said, we cannot only focus on keep the mentality of Africans. Tourism means going to the national park and seeing animals.
Yes.
We have to develop, because a country like ours, Uganda, has a lot of potential. So I'm happy that at least some people are trying to see these things and picking them out and developing them. So maybe 2023 will come with a lot of...
But we at the end of the day, we won't deny Africa is known for wildlife.
But why are we rigid? Why are we deciding to keep
that? Because you will not find a wild lion in Amazon.
Our biggest export as a continent is conservation.
Yeah.
Now, I'd like to bring in the professor of travel on the African continent. Kojo, you travel a whole lot more than many of us.
How many passports does he have? Has he only the old ones?
Just let us know some things you've seen along maybe the route as you've traveled, but also things you've read and heard from your guests or partners that people can look forward to in 2023.
Yes, thanks again, Jonathan. I think 2023 is, it has a lot of opportunities for us, in tourism sector again.
Yeah.
Let me just backtrack a bit that we saw in November 2022 this year. We had the first, global conference on linking tourism, culture, and a creative economy. Okay, yeah. I'm just going to make a point because I realize that, Brian said, our biggest export is, safari. Unfortunately, it's becoming a bit fringe for a lot of people coming to the continent, all right? And Africa is not only about safari or wildlife. There's a lot diverse. There's diverse offerings that people can look out for. And what is, coming out strongly, for example, is about gastronomy, okay? It's about gastronomy, it's about culture, it's about music, it's about contemporary stuff. So one thing that I believe destinations can really work hard around is to be able to curate, not just curate, but put out there the offerings that they have in terms of, because look, Africans' cultural asset is amazing, it's magnificent across the entire region. Its food, its people, its way of doing things and all of that. So I think if we can, we can position ourselves well and be able to package that in a sense that also touches, the nooks and crannies of the continent and people within that ecosystem. You realize that when you go to that sector, people from the top to the bottom, enjoy part of the cake, as well. So culture would be great, for us if we can be able to do things more around our heritage and culture. Gastronomy definitely will be big. That I believe people have to look out for it. And then another thing that it would be good for us to have a market for is the creative economy, music, etc. Often than not, imagine. Jinga, the festival in the Jinga festival, right, in Uganda. Okay, go and do the economic impact assessment, and you see its contribution to the economy. I know there's a lot of conversations, very controversial around
in Ginger, yes,
etc. And you have Afrochella happening in Ghana. You go to Nigeria. You have the carnivals, everything. Because we've often just treated it as just entertainment, and we've not taken time to invest in understanding the value that it offers to our people. We are not in the same space to project its economic value, and that is unfortunate. Because when you do that, then what will also happen is that you will take measures to make the experience better. The experience is better, all right? At the same time, people are able to package themselves well, creative arts people, and it would also be a way that domestic tourism thrives. Because remember, during the pandemic that we couldn't travel, the first point was domestic tourism. So once we do that and we are having in different places, it's economic propellers for destinations. So that's three key things that I will take, or I would expect the African tourism industry to look out for. And then we have to be able to make a bold decision around connectivity and then visa facilitation. There's no point whatsoever that you take out, days, months before you can get a visa to a fellow African country.
Yes.
And this is a challenge. If that happens, you become non-competitive. All right. And it's troubling where we have, countries in Africa, obviously, that they are coming from Africa, you have a challenge, but people coming from elsewhere don't even need a visa.
Yeah.
So we have to walk the talk, around visa facilitation, connectivity, and because of all of that, it's expensive for you to travel. All right, air connectivity is a challenge. Sometimes you have to go to Europe or go to Asia or Middle East and come back to the continent. So if we can address these regulatory quagmires that we've been confronted with now, I think that the continent it won't be overnight. But we've seen that some countries, even the continent, are doing well. And then finally, just a couple of or buttress what I'm saying with the latest report released by African Development Bank on the visa openness report. Yeah, there've been some steady progress around where you can be able to travel without visa. I mean, you get visa on arrival and all of that, but in terms of the wings, what it means is that you can travel without having a pre-visa or pre-whatever and then get it on arrival. We've seen a number of countries, scoring, good point around that. So if our leaders can be able to even start with bilaterals between countries and countries, it portends well for a buoyant and a resilient sector that we all look forward to.
Yeah, that's a very good point to end your submission on, and I really enjoyed your. That's why I brought you on to bring on that continental perspective of as someone who travels a lot, and I like the discussion around advancing that intra-African travel, just making it more seamless, more easier for Africans to visit African countries. All right, fantastic. Now, I'd like to move on to, I guess, if I could call it a bit of a controversial question that I'd like all of us to respond to. So all the 5 guests on the podcast will have to share their thoughts and sentiments on this. One of the biggest stories, and this is beyond tourism and what, one of the biggest stories of 2022 that pretty much broke the internet and mainstream journalism was... aside from the World Cup final, for us that
it had mixed feelings.
Yeah, aside from the World Cup final, one of the biggest stories was the death of Queen Elizabeth II.
May her soul rest in peace.
Rest in peace. Now, as expected, her death was mourned by many people, but it was also met with mixed reactions, especially on the African continent. One of the debates I saw making rounds was a discussion around the need for African countries to decolonize the names, the foreign names that we were given for some of our streets, some of our cities, but even the national parks as well. I did read about people who are calling for places like Queen Elizabeth National Park in Uganda, Murchison Falls National Park to go back to their original names or have local names. Yeah, and I know Letile, we had. A while back, we had an exchange with you on the timeline around these names. I know I shared a photo from Queen Elizabeth National Park, and he was like, "You guys need to rename that park to a local name." So this question is something that I'd like all the 5 of you to just let me know. What's your feeling like around this debate to have our names, our local names, be tagged to these different national parks, especially those that have foreign names. I'm going to let this be democratic, so whoever feels like they want to go first, go for it.
I think Kojo should go first because he's been on this planet more than us. Right. With respect, of course.
Let's hear from Kojo then.
That's not fair. Everybody being there. So I think my take on that is that, look, again, may her soul rest in peace. But regarding, yes, it was a mixed feeling, in terms of the conversation around Queen Elizabeth, II and everything. But back in Ghana and many places in Africa, it was about obviously the things that happened during the colonial times, and once she was there as well. But I don't vividly recall the call for change of names and everything, because look, even if you wanted to do that now and you go through your legislation in your individual countries, then you could do that. You didn't need the Queen to die. before we could start those processes. And what it meant, because again, the past, the present, and the future. There's a place that we have to be mindful of what history is, and not to distort. Having said that, again, the ball is in our courts. That if you feel, for example, the Elizabeth Park or something that you have in Uganda, it's time for you to change, you would have done that. But I don't think there's enough, again, a bit controversial, I won't say not enough grounds, but if there was a will and there was a clarion call for the change, it should have been done and not been necessitated by the death of that, yes. Because you are an independent nation. So the United Kingdom, with all due respect, wasn't saying that you should still keep, or the monarch was not saying you should keep these names, and stuff like that. So that's my take. But yeah, it was going to always be controversial, around that. But obviously, she lived her life, she lightened up the world and everything. But you cannot also shy away from the things, some of the very atrocities that were committed during the colonial era. So these are facts that we always ought to speak to. But as to whether it's time for us to change, it would suggest that we were under duress or under some kind of bond not to be able to do that during her reign. So that's my take on this very controversial conversation.
Those are some interesting thoughts. I don't know who wants to go next.
Bentik.
I don't know why Brian is dodging this question, but I will take on I will. See, some questions are really emotional. And I think I will respond to this in a rather emotional way, because it is not only national parks. It also goes back to all the features we have. The lakes. Lake Nalubare, which happens to be the biggest lake in Africa, second biggest lake with freshwater, second biggest freshwater body in the whole world. Yeah. Takes up the name Victoria after the Queen. Okay? Lake Albert, Lake George, all have local names.
There are quite many.
Okay?
When you talk about Victoria, there's also Victoria Falls.
And that's the funny thing is you have Victoria Falls in Zimbabwe. Then you have Lake Victoria. You have Lake Victoria here. And I'm thinking this is where we go back to the debate we had at some point, talking about how people come out and say, John Speak discovered. How do you discover something that has been being seen all over and over? And this is so much brainwashing. To me, I feel I really respond to this with a lot of emotions, because I think with due respect, Africans need to be respected. These are all found on African continents and countries. So you need to respect them, because they've been having names. And if you want to really enjoy tourism, I think you need to respect culture as well. So the person who called Lake Narubare had a reason. And I think it has a very, very big story attached to it. I'm tired of seeing Uganda being driven and drawn on British drawn boundaries. Mm-hmm. This whole Lake Narubare was a lake found in Uganda. The entire lake was found in Uganda. Right now, we have some portion in Tanzania, another one in Kenya. I think, let me allow Brian to also respond.
But if I may ask, before Victoria, in Uganda, we used to call it Lake Narubare.
Lake Narubare. Right?
So what was the name actually in Kenya and Tanzania?
It was in Uganda entirely.
Okay, let's say.
They didn't have it.
But I think you hear where the conversation comes from.
They didn't have a lake called Narubare or Victoria.
So, but anyway, if you look back, we are a destination that is driven by history. And there is no country that doesn't have history. So whether we like it or not, my inputs right now might be, but I think I would, if there would be voting, I think I would vote change of names.
Back to the local ones?
Yes. Yeah. I think I would vote.
It would make much more sense. Like Nek Narubare,
of course, with respect to the late Queen.
The late Queen.
And for the authenticity of the products, and
I'm really sorry.
like
I
that.
don't really feel like with respect still keeps me colonized.
Not really.
And I want to feel like this is mine. And if I'm going to feel this is mine, then it needs to come back. Actually, they should be saying, with respect to Uganda, we've given the name back.
That's the thing. But I would actually vote for change of name.
Have you heard
because
of-
It's not only actually our tourism products.
Yeah.
It's
The culture
all
itself.
over.
It's in
Have you heard
everyone,
of?
All over.
Yeah.
So
I know that discussion around colonialism is one really passionate one. But I did see, Letile, I saw you seem to be burning with a response.
and Aisha as well, I see.
Yeah.
Yes. These names need to be changed. I'll also vote for that because there were names. I'll give you example by Victoria Falls in Zimbabwe and Zambia. They call it Musiwa Tunya, which is in Setswana, but Zimbabwe and Zambia they don't speak Setswana because they were saying it's a water with thunder. Because when you always go to Vic Falls, there's always that.
Yes.
That's what do you call it? In the Queen's language, we try to change our names from them. What do you call it? Like they were saying, like the water with thunders or whatever they say it was Musiwa in our language. It's the same thing, but you can come from where you come from. Then you say it's a Victoria Falls. You discovered it. Our forefathers have been living there. They're calling it Musiwa Twin. Then we come here to call it Musiwa Twin. I would say in Botswana we are lucky. We don't have too many places named after, like Okovango Delta. There are
like
too many
the way
places
it
there.
speaks
We have Jao, Pai, that's still on the original names. Linda, Lenyanti, Savuti, that's still in the original names. Moremi, Chobe, Makadikadi, Kalahari, Kalahadi, some call it Kalahadi. You see, mostly are still in our names, but we still have a few like the Champman's Baobao, one of the 3 largest trees in Africa, but it's recently died. So someone called it the Champman's Baobab. How can it come and name a Baobab?
No, it's
In
it gives
Africa.
it's I think it's to give relevance to their walks of life. I think now if you see
Yeah.
like how you say John Speak discovered this or and then named this lake after the Queen, so it gives relevance to the explorer, but then it takes away from us the host communities. You get?
Just imagine me. I go to Rwanda, then I go to the Akigira National Park and start naming it like Tilekwa.
It doesn't make sense.
Kagame
I wish you
won't
the
let
best
do
of
that.
luck.
No, let me just bring in Aisha. Let's let Aisha wrap this discussion just before people say I rigged the election. So that's
No.
it looks like it's a one-sided election. But all of us are voting.
I think
for the
you had to
change.
bring in someone from Europe to answer
Let me
this.
bring in Aisha.
Thank you, Jonathan. Well, about decolonizing our parks, that one is so huge. Oh my goodness. So if the Queen has passed on, does it mean our park, has it in any way had any change, any kind of deformation? You know, this is just a name. I'll draw, as a marketer, I'll still draw some examples in marketing. You know, once you have built a brand, and then at the end of the day, you're changing it. What is the reason for changing? I mean, it has been there for years. Yeah. So if someone's mind has been triggered to know that, I have to visit Queen Elizabeth in 2022 or 2023, for example. Yeah. This person knows Queen Elizabeth. For God's sake, you're not going to say, now Queen Elizabeth changed. You're going now to visit Nabwanika National Park, or for example. It's something different. You're just triggering people. Yeah.
Bentik is going to fight with you with that position. Bentik is very passionate about scrapping all these foreign names and giving them local names everywhere.
Yeah, it would be nice, but the brand, we shouldn't forget the history. That is where we have come from, Bentik and the team there who want to oppose. I mean, that is a fact. History happened that the Great Britain colonized us. And that is why we have some of the things, because of that particular intervention we had from them. Then also another thing is the Queen. May her soul rest in peace, but she was the most respected person on earth. Most respected. Yeah. So we're tagging along with that kind of dignity in terms of, just the tagging along. So all the Europeans there who will be like, hey, our Queen is named, it's somewhere in Africa, in East Africa, Uganda in particular. There is that attachment. Yeah. So before you actually sell the actual product, that the safari in Queen Elizabeth, you've already pulled some strings somewhere that we are recognizing your Queen. So to me, I wouldn't decolonize. I would go with it. And we are remembering the Queen anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I am very non-partisan, so I don't get to vote. My guests on the podcast have had their say, and Aisha has wrapped it up in some very interesting fashion. All right. If you're listening to the podcast, I guess you can also let us know what your sentiments are. We'll probably run a poll in the comments section. Let us know what your thoughts are on this, if I could call it controversial, but very important discussion around decolonizing our names and giving them the rightful local names. What a heated segment. And that marks the end of the fourth section of this great episode. And now coming up in section 5, we chat with Brian, Bentik and Leitile about the prospect of Uganda's new private conservancies with big names like Space for Giants, African Wildlife Foundation, and African Parks, who have all been mentioned in there. As we already said, the podcast is available on all major streaming platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Radio Republic, Pocket Casts, and several other platforms. All right, I'll see you in the 5th section.